Good morning, everybody. Especially good morning to you, graduates, or those of you who are about to graduate in the next 6 to 12 months' time, because today's workshop is all for you. How to land a graduate job in Australia. My name's James Whitcomb. I'm the candidate coach. It's great to be coming to you live today, Tuesday, 26th of October, 2021. Feel free to ask me any questions as we're going along. This is not a pre recorded workshop or webinar. We are live streaming for you today, and we would love to have your questions and answers. So, how do we actually land a graduate job in Australia? Well, for many students, if not for all students, the point when you come to applying for graduation work can be particularly nerve wracking because for your whole career, you have been busily thinking about this moment, and you've been busily thinking, what's it going to be like when it comes to the point in time that I look for work and I start applying for roles? So today we're going to take you through some of the basics that you need to know, but we're also going to take you through some tips. So one of the things with the graduate recruitment process is that it's extremely competitive. So I'm going to take you through my top 10 tips today when it comes to looking for a graduate role and landing a graduate role in Australia. All right. So before we get into too much of the details, though, just a little bit of webinar or workshop housekeeping for today. I am coming to you live, and just occasionally something can happen, which means I get kicked off the line. So if that occurs and I do drop out for any reason today, please stay on the line and I'll rejoin and restream as soon as I can. Feel free to ask lots of questions. As we mentioned, we've got the comments box there. You can log in and ask me any questions as we're going along, but also take plenty of notes. And you can watch a copy of today's webinar. Like all of our workshops, we pop them up onto our live stream channel. They automatically feed onto our live stream channel, and you'll be able to watch a replay of that instantly, or you can come back and watch it again at any time. So if you're not looking for a graduate work at the moment, but you're going to be in 3 or 6 months' time, bookmark this link, come back and watch this workshop again then. Okay, so a little bit about me, your presenter, James. Who am I and why am I presenting to you today? Well, I've been in recruitment for a long time. So I've been a director at Smart Recruitment where I work now, and I've been working in recruitment since 2005. And over that time, I've conducted well over 300 interviews, over 600 group assessments, and placed over 1,000 people into jobs. So that's a bit about my background, and that's where a lot of my coaching is coming from the standpoint of. Particularly at the graduate level, I've watched so many candidates outperform candidates who are maybe more qualified because they were better prepared for interview and they were better prepared throughout the whole recruitment process. So a lot of my coaching with job seekers like yourself is around how to best prepare and best stand out through the whole recruitment process, because it's not necessarily the best candidate that gets the job. It is the candidate that is best prepared and best presented through the interview process. And I launched the Candidate Coach, the platform that we're meeting on, in December 2019. All righty. So I would love to have you answer this question. Are you applying for a graduate job in the next 12 months? So who have we got watching today? Who have we got watching today? Are you applying for a graduate job? Let me know. As part of the audience, we've got a few people who have written yes, definitely. That's fantastic. So it's a really specific session that we're talking about today. And we're really focusing just on this one component. But as you will see, a lot of the tips that I'm going to share with you today are relevant for applying for work at any time in your life or any time in your career. All right, so let's set the scene a little bit. Let's set the scene here. Grad Australia. So who's Grad Australia? Well, Grad Australia produced a lot of graduate information, and one of the most interesting pieces of information that they share is that based on average data across all industries, the average employer received let's call it close to 2,000 graduate applications to fill 59 positions. So that's not too bad. 2,000 applications, 59 positions. We think that's, from a recruitment point of view, that's pretty good in terms of the actual chance that you have as a job seeker to fill that role. But when we boil this down, it gives each graduate a 1 in 33 chance of getting hired by that company. 1 in 33. So my question to you is, how does having a 1 in 33 chance make you feel? Please type your comment into the comments box there if you would like to contribute. But how does it make you feel? I think 1 in 33 is probably... Look, it doesn't sound great, does it? It doesn't sound great. We need to be honest. 1 in 33. The odds are not in our favor. Let's say you apply for graduate jobs at 3 companies. So if we work at that out statistically, we might get down to 1 in 11. So the odds are still not in our favor. So what does that mean? Well, from my point of view, what that means is we need to be doing everything that we can as graduates to make sure that we are the 1 in 33. We need to do everything within our power throughout that recruitment process and that graduate application process to make sure that we are that 1 in 33. So what I'm going to share with you today is 11 job hunting tips in a competitive market, because the graduate recruitment market is the most competitive. It is the most competitive. Candidates put in the most amount of work compared to any other role. And you need to work really hard to stand out. So that's what I'm going to share with you today. I'm going to give you 11 tips that I think you won't hear from everybody else, but can really help you to stand out throughout the graduate recruitment process. Alrighty, let's get stuck in. Tip number 1. Realize that all graduates meet the selection criteria. Now, this sounds like a really funny thing to say, but a lot of graduates complain because they think, oh, here I've just graduated in accounting, for example. Here's an accounting graduation advertisement. I'll apply for the job. Oh, I didn't even get an interview. But why not? I've graduated. The selection criteria says you need to be a graduate. Well, the selection criteria for graduates is the most broadest out of all jobs we recruit for, because everybody that applies meets a selection criteria. So you are actually not special when you're applying for a graduate role. You are just allowed to apply for a graduate role. Having a degree, having the right qualification allows you to apply. It allows every other graduate to apply. So you need to realize that by applying, you are on the same level as everybody else. You are on the same level of everybody else. So your degree, the fact that you are a graduate, does not make you stand out in the graduate recruitment process. All it does, it allows you to apply. But so can everybody else who has recently graduated. So I don't want to sound harsh here, but it's really important in your own mind to realize that, hey, now that I've graduated, I'm allowed to apply. It's not now that I'm graduated, I should get the graduate job. It is, I am allowed to apply. So realize that. And then that should help to start you on the thought process I want you to go through today, which is, okay, now that I've been allowed to apply, what can I do to really stand out? Because if we think that graduating and having even a good score and just applying will be enough, then you're in for a rude surprise. All right, question. Are you attending careers, fairs, or graduate expos at the moment? I apologize if it looks like I'm looking over here. That's where my display screen is today with my slides. I know that in 2021 and also in 2020, we didn't get to do a lot of this, particularly if you're in Melbourne or Sydney, maybe a little bit more if you're in some of the other Australian states. You've been able to walk around the graduate events, the careers fairs, the expo halls, and hopefully there's still some of these coming up that you can attend. So my recommendation as somebody who's graduating, or even if you're a year or two away, is absolutely start attending these events, because they're wonderful events for you to learn. But you should be attending these events with a real purpose, because when you're attending these events, as you'll see on the screen here, you normally will have a table or a booth or a stall, and the potential employer will have some information on their graduate recruitment program. This is a wonderful opportunity for you to start to build some rapport. Far too many students go along to these careers fairs, they speak to 10 people, they come out with a whole bunch of pamphlets, they're really excited, but they didn't build any rapport and they didn't build any connection with the person that they were meeting. Now, imagine if in 3 months' time, that person that you met at the careers fair actually remembered you, or you used their name and they were impressed. You are going to start standing out. So, what I would encourage you to do at the graduate careers fairs is to go around and to write down the names of the people that you're meeting. So, if you go up to a tent or a stand for Deloitte, for example, and you meet a lady called Wallace, and you're talking to Wallace about applying for the Deloitte program, what I'd really encourage you to do as you walk away is just to note down her name. Note down that you spoke with Wallace and note down her surname. And then when it comes time to applying for the job, we can use that information. So when we're writing our cover letter, for example, and we're applying for a graduate job at Deloitte, we can talk about the fact that at the careers fair, I met Wallace and Wallace and I talked about this. Now, what you are then doing is you're really tailoring and personalizing your cover letter. And you are showing that you remembered people's names, you've been paying attention, and that it really makes the person who's reading your cover letter feel that you are very heavily invested in getting the job with Deloitte. All that you've done is that you've had a conversation with Wallace and you've written down her name and then you've included that in their cover letter. People absolutely love it when you remember their name. So again, if you go for an interview with Deloitte, it's very unlikely that you'll meet with Wallace, but you can say during the interview, I met with Wallace at the careers fair. The person will be impressed that you remembered Wallace's name. So these are just some little things that can really help to build some rapport, to build some connection, and to help you stand out as a graduate when you're applying for jobs. All right, tip number 3. Have an achievements-based resume. If you aren't sure what an achievements-based resume is, I really encourage you to come along to next week's workshop. So next week on Tuesday, we are running a workshop, Wednesday at 11 a.m. We're running a workshop, how to create an amazing resume. And a lot of that focus there is on achievements. So again, as I said, everybody has graduated. So you're all graduated. You've all got a very similar resume. You're all saying you've done the same thing, which is studied and graduated. Your achievements help you to stand out. It's your achievements that have helped you stand out. Everyone's got the same qualifications. So if you've got a high distinction in one subject, make sure you mention that. If you've got achievements from your part-time job, even if it was at a supermarket while studying, make sure you include that on your resume. As a recruiter, we often know what you did in your last job or studied. And so we've got a really decent understanding there. What we actually want to know on your resume is not what you did, but how well you did it. How well did you do it? Tip number 4, show that you know about the company and the industry. So you must do as much research or more research than the other candidates. Company websites, careers pages, press releases, annual reports. Those last 2 things there, particularly the last thing, if you're applying for a big company that has an annual report, I would really encourage you to go and flick through it. I don't think you need to read all 150 pages, but if you can show at interview or you can mention that you read in the company report something, the interviewer is going to be impressed. If a candidate says to me, I've got a question for you, James, something I read in the annual report, I think, wow, this person's read the annual report. I've never read the annual report. It's boring. The only people who read the annual report are finance gurus and investors and people who are really interested in the company. This candidate must be interested. So if you can go and even just flick through the annual report and write down 2 questions that you can then draw into your interview, you're going to impress the person that you meet. So I just want to share a quote with you from Stefan Wheelak, who works for a software company in Melbourne and does their hiring. Stefan put this post on LinkedIn. I'm going to look over here and read it to you. Credentials on your resume will get you that first interview, but it's not the key to your next position. Looking at the people we recently hired or who will be joining us shortly, there is one thing they all have in common. They were uber prepared. They have dug deep into what we do and stand for. They impressed us with their understanding of our business and the problems we are trying to solve. Yet, not all of them were what we were looking for. On the opposite side, I interviewed a candidate the other day who looked great on paper. But when I spoke with her, she had no idea what we were doing and said she'd only research a company once she lands an on-site interview. Well, it's a Zoom interview these days. Though if you haven't spent any time researching our company, you're missing the mark. I understand doing research takes effort and you don't know if it'll pay off. Now, here's the most important sentence. However, that's exactly what other applicants do to get the job. And they're the ones you compete with right from the beginning of your application. So if you don't do the research, particularly for graduate jobs, you're really going to struggle. All right, tip 5, research the recruitment process. So what I mean here is get an understanding of what's going to happen. For graduate roles, the recruitment process can be quite extensive. It might be 3, 4, 5, 6 assessments. Some might be individual interviews. Some might be group assessments. Some might be a half day off-site. Some might be online tests. But researching the recruitment process will give you a really good understanding. I remember when I went for one of my first graduate jobs, I was extremely nervous. And when I turned up, it was just a get to know you, welcome to everyone. So everybody that had applied for the job was welcome to come in and just hear about working at the company. I didn't need to get so nervous. I thought I was going to be having a one-on-one interview. I felt a bit foolish. So research the recruitment process. Find out what type of tests you're going to be taking. Because if you're going to be taking tests, it's very likely that you can Google that test. It's very likely that you can find information about going for an interview with this company. What assessments will you be asked to complete? What do previous candidates have to say? The reason you want to find out all this information is that you can then go away and prepare. You can prepare what tests, you can prepare for assessments, and you can get an insight. Because there's a lot of review sites now where people will talk about the experience they had when they've been applying for work at that company. Tip 6 is a short one. Practicing your interview technique. It makes sense because it is the only way. It's the only way that your interview technique will actually get better. So a lot of candidates read interview questions, but they don't practice their technique. So you need to find someone, whether it's a fellow student, it's your parents, it's a friend, it's a family member. You need to actually sit across the table from someone and practice answering questions and get them to critique you. All right, tip 7, who would you rather work with? This is a question. You've got 2 options. Who would you choose to work with from this list? Somebody that you like or somebody that you don't like? It sounds like a silly question, doesn't it? Because absolutely, we would choose to work with somebody we like. So why am I asking this question? Well, you need to be likable. When somebody is interviewing you or speaking to you on the phone, they are actually thinking, do I want to work with this person? Do they want to work with you? Do they want to sit next to you perhaps for 40 hours a week, for 48 weeks of the year, for the next 3 years? So if you're coming across as a bit too shy or a bit too grumpy or a bit too unsure, you're going to be beaten by a candidate who comes across as likable and happy and smiles. So it will increase your chances of getting the job by being likable. Tip number 8, ask great questions. Asking great questions is probably the best way that you can stand out as a candidate. So at the end of pretty much every interview, the interviewer is going to say to you, do you have any questions for me? This is often the only part of the interview where you have the opportunity for what's going to be talked about. So in advance, write down 5 or 6 really good questions. Write down 5. You're not going to ask 5 or 6. But if a couple of things are actually mentioned that you're going to ask questions on throughout the interview, you don't want to ask the same thing because you look silly. So write down 5 or 6 questions. Have them with you. You're allowed to have notes with you. It looks well organized. But those questions, maybe 2 of those questions are from what you read in the annual report. And you would ask the question that way. I read in the annual report this. Can you tell me a bit more about it? So the purpose there is really for you to show the interviewer the amount of research you've done. And they're thinking, wow. So you can really stand out here. You can really stand out here by asking great questions. Tip number 9, positive responsive communication. It is amazing to me as a recruiter sometimes how hard it is to reach people. So if you're applying for jobs, make sure you have an active voicemail. Make sure the voicemail is empty and I can leave you a message. Answer the phone in a positive and professional manner. Show interest in the person that you're meeting. Ask them about yourself. James, you've worked here for 15 years. Why do you enjoy working here? Look me up on LinkedIn. Try to build a connection. Ask for feedback. There's nothing wrong with asking for feedback. It shows you're open. It shows you're wanting to learn. And it shows that you are really keen on the job. Have a thankful attitude. So at the end of every conversation or at the end of the interview, just say thank you and smile. Thank you very much for taking the time to meet with me today. You'll be amazed that when we get to the point where we're choosing a candidate, and we might have, for graduate roles, we might have 2 jobs, let's say, and we've got 10 candidates, 10 absolutely fantastic candidates. What we are now choosing, what we are basing our choices on now, are not really to do with education or experience or qualifications. We are choosing on tiny little things. And so if you've been the friendliest person in the recruitment process, that could be enough for you to get one of the 2 spots. And tip number 10, last tip. This is often my most important tip. Become a video interview pro. So you are going to be doing a lot of videos. You are going to be doing heaps of video interviews throughout the rest of your career. Particularly at the moment, large teams have moved to video interviewing. So I want to share with you now a short video to make sure that you're best prepared for a video interview. Hi job seekers, James here from The Candidate Coach. One of the most common questions we've been receiving lately is around how to best prepare for a video interview. Due to the circumstances over the last 12 to 18 months, video interviews have become the most common way of meeting a candidate, replacing the in-person, face-to-face interview. So here are my top tips for what you need to do to make sure you are best prepared and presenting yourself as well as you possibly can when your interview is over video. So there's 4 main things that you really need to consider. The first thing is camera height. This is the biggest mistake that a lot of people make, is getting the height of their camera wrong. If you've got a laptop, for example, that is sitting on a desk, you need to lift it up. The camera should always be at eye height. You want to imagine the lens of a camera is the eyeball of a person. So if you are looking down at your laptop or your phone, it's going to look back up your nose. So keep the camera positioned at eye height. One of the great ways to do that is to buy a tripod, something like this. So if you don't have a tripod, it's well worth going out and spending the money. And here's another one that I've got here. This one in particular I find to be really, really good. These have both got lights which help, but this one here, you can adjust it to a full standing height if you like. And it's available for not much money from a retail store. The second thing that is really important is the lighting. So having the light shining on your face. You don't want to have light shining from behind you because that creates a lot of glare. So have the light shining on your face, sit with a window facing you so that you are looking nice and clear on camera. The third thing is audio. You need to be in a nice quiet space so your voice comes across clearly, so that you don't have to yell, so that the sound is not distorted. If you are using a laptop, make sure you check about the sound direction. Some microphones only record from directly in front, and if you tilt your head sideways, the audio quality can go down quite significantly. And the fourth thing is, remember to show some personality with video interviewing. A lot of people speak to a camera in a different way that they speak to a person. So again, look at the lens of the camera and imagine you're speaking to a person. Smile, talk with your hands if that's what you do, but don't look around the room. If you're nervous, don't look down at your hands. Look at the camera and give an answer as if you were giving it to a person. This can be challenging, particularly if you are being asked to record answers and there's not actually a person that you are speaking to, but personality definitely comes through on video, so make sure you show yours. And with everything, practice. If you're not sure how you're going to present, or you think, I don't think this is going to work really well, set up your camera, hit record, and just speak to the camera. Talk, see how you look, and practice several times. This is going to be the new norm, or not the new norm, it is the norm for quite some time now. So it's really important that you understand how to best prepare for video interviewing. Good luck. Alrighty, and then tip number 11. So our final tip is missing out isn't the end of the world. And it's really important for me to say this to you as graduates because it is such a period of time where all of your hopes and dreams, you finished your high school, you finished studying, and you've got a diploma or a degree, and you really want this graduate job. You've been aiming at it for so long that missing out on it can feel like it's the end of the world. What was the point of all this study? But there are so many career paths and so many ways to start your career separate to landing a graduate job. I didn't land a graduate job and I was devastated. But 3 months later, I had a great job and I've never looked back. So if you do miss out and you don't get the graduate job you're after, it's not the end of the world. It just means you're going to start in a different place. Alrighty, so a reminder about some of our upcoming workshops. So tomorrow at 10:30, we are running our masterclass. So wherever you're watching this today, be back here tomorrow. It's our most comprehensive workshop. We touch on everything: resumes, cover letters, interview technique. If you are at that point in your role at the moment, in your study or in your work life where you are really ready to get out there and apply for jobs, I really recommend you come along to our workshop tomorrow. It's very comprehensive. If you're still wanting more assistance, I'd really recommend that you check out everything that's available to you on your candidate coaching platform. Videos, resume and cover letter templates, interview questions, practice online tests, advice for executive job seekers, mental health support. We've got a whole range of services there that are available for you and just for free. As always, we love your feedback. I'm going to drop this into a comments box. Please fill out our survey. Please take the time to complete our 2-minute survey. Really helps for us to get feedback on what you thought of today's session. And also, we ask in the survey, what would you like to know more about? What other workshops can we run for you to help you best prepare? And please do follow our LinkedIn page as well to keep up to date with everything that's happening with the Candidate Coach. Now, as always, we finish our session with a little video on looking after your mental health when you're looking for work. So thanks for joining me today. I hope to see you tomorrow for our Job Seeker Masterclass. Goodbye for now.
If you're not feeling terrific at the moment and you feel like your mental well-being has taken a little bit of a dip, please remember this is not going to last forever. There's lots you can do to manage your mental health and get back on top of it. I am Dr. Sarah Barker. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've worked in workplace mental health with Black Dog Institute for the past 7 years. Lot of adults and young people, mainly with anxiety, depression, trauma as well, a range of issues, and many who are looking for work and undergoing that process of trying to find employment. Looking for work causes mental strain because our identity is tied up with our work. Work gives us meaning, it gives us purpose, it gives us company and connection. So it's stressful for lots of reasons looking for work, and it can take a toll on our mental health. It's really important for us to be aware of the signs that our well-being and our mental health might be dropping. Probably the biggest sign is changes in behaviour. So that might be changes in the way we're thinking or talking to ourselves. We might be saying things like, who would employ me? I'll never get a job. We might be really down on ourselves and really hard and critical on ourselves when normally we're not so hard and critical. We might also, in our relationships, change our behaviour. We might be more snappy or more irritable with people that we love, that normally we might be a little bit irritable sometimes, but not irritable in that way. Losing interest in things that usually sparked us and ignited us and gave us joy. So perhaps usually we like walking the dog and suddenly we start thinking, I can't be bothered walking the dog today. That sort of thing, those changes in behaviour are really significant because they tell us that something's different, and if we're noticing, I suppose, more than one of those and it's affecting the way we feel, and this is over a period of say 2 weeks or longer, then it's a really good idea to have a chat to a GP that you trust, and find out what might be going on, have a discussion and see if there's any physical reasons for that, or if perhaps your mental health and wellbeing might be able to do with a little bit of extra support, and then the GP can refer you on to see a psychologist, a counsellor, whoever is most appropriate for you. There are so many great things you can do to look after your mental health when you're looking for work, and it's really important that you do. My very top tip would be really talking kindly to yourself and being compassionate with yourself. I think when we're looking for work, we can have a lot more questions like, will I ever get a job? Will I ever be employed? It can feel like this could go on forever. So being kind to ourselves and saying things like, it will work out. There will be a day, my efforts will be rewarded. It will just take time. I just need to keep trying. Reminding yourself of your strengths. And that might even be tapping into people you love and asking them what your strengths are, because sometimes it's harder to find them when our mood's a bit low and we're feeling more worried. We can be harder on ourselves. I think that routine is really, really important to our well-being. When we're looking for work, we mightn't have such a regular routine because there mightn't be a 9 to 5 start and finish time for a job, or there isn't. So instead, thinking about looking for work as a job in itself can be helpful. Having a start time and a finish time can be really helpful, and some set tasks that you hope to achieve that day. Purpose is really important too. So purpose might come through routine, but it can also come through other things. Meaning's really important, and our work gives us meaning. So when we're looking for work, meaning mightn't feel like it's there as much. Part of what we can do is infuse those tasks with meaning. So I am doing these things today, I'm looking for work, and that is meaningful in itself because there's an end goal to this. It will be something that's good for me and good for the people that I love as well. Some excellent resources for looking after well-being when looking for work are the Headgear app. The Headgear app is free, it's evidence-based, it's developed by Black Dog Institute, and it is fun to use. It uses mindfulness, so a technique to really help us relax and reduce physiological arousal, which can often occur when we're feeling anxious. It's got a 30-day challenge, which is just short, bite-sized little challenges to extend your well-being and grow your well-being, and that can be really extra important when we're looking for work. There are also some really terrific resources available through the Black Dog Institute. One of them is a beautiful self-care plan that encourages you to think about your top coping tips, the things that personally work best for you, that are positive coping strategies. Another really good resource is through Beyond Blue, and they've got some excellent resources to look after mental health while looking for work, and also when people are recently out of work as well. Probably time to seek professional assistance when you notice your mood is lower and you're feeling more down than usual, when you're worrying more and perhaps worrying excessively about things that you wouldn't normally worry about, and perhaps in your relationships too, when you're more tense with people and perhaps more snappy or irritable. All of these are signs that perhaps our mood is not in the greatest space and our well-being is not in the greatest space, and that it can be a great idea then to chat to your GP, who can then refer you to an appropriate person to help you strengthen your well-being. It's very very common for people to have a dip, but please know that that's not going to last forever, and that there's lots you can do through looking after yourself, but also through getting access to professional support that can really give you a boost again and get you back feeling good as you're looking for work.